Okay, let's start with your name. What's your name?
Jessy Sheldon Vincent,
Okay, and what year were you born?
born in 4/15/28, April 15th, 1928.
Okay. And where were you born?
Born in Oklahoma City.
Oh, okay. And what were your parents' names?
Well, my mother's name was Christine E. Byram.
Okay. And where was your mom born?
She was born in Oklahoma, as far as I know, and I'm not sure just what part of Oklahoma.
Okay.
But
And do you have brothers and sisters?
no, I had one sister, and she passed on a few years back.
Okay. And what was her name?
Patricia.
Okay. And do you remember how old she was?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
It's been a few years
Okay.
since she passed.
Okay.
But she is 4 years younger than I, you know. So if she were living today, she'd be 90, what? Yeah, I'm 94. So she would be 90.
Okay. And do you have any other brothers and sisters?
No.
No?
I
Okay.
got, well, actually, if you count my half brothers and half sisters, they, there was 4 brothers and 3 sisters,
Okay.
half sisters.
Okay. All right. Okay, and can you remember their names and their ages, or?
Well, I can remember their names.
Okay.
Starting out, the girls' names were Marie, Edna Mae, and Vernice Ray. Their names their last names was Wilkie. Then there was Eugene, there was Charles, Joe Allen, and Marion.
Okay.
He was the youngest.
So that was quite a large family, huh?
It was, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
They were all originally from Oklahoma.
Okay.
Moved out here to California back in about 37,
Oh,
1937.
Okay. And what prompted the family to move to California? What?
Well, looking for work mainly. It was they was having a hard time back there getting by, you know. So there was supposedly more work out here for people to do. So actually, that's why my mother originally came here. Her and my aunt, Carrie, and my grandmother. I think her name was Nancy. It's so long I can't remember that for sure, but I believe it was Nancy. But they came out here and got a job working in the cannery, Libby's Cannery in Sacramento. And that's actually where my mother originally I met my dad, Joe Vincent. He used to deliver vegetables and wood and stuff like that from Orangevale down there, and that's how they were first acquainted.
Okay. And where did you live in Orangevale?
Well, I've lived in a couple of places. We first started out over on Greenback Lane. I went to Roberts School for my first year in school, and we rented a little place right next to the school there. I think it cost $10 a month, and of course, wages weren't too high back then. I think my dad got $1 a day. So, anyway, my first year in school was there at the old Roberts School. And then we moved over on, let's see, over here. Can't think of the name of the street. It's
Was it Golden Gate?
the house that we originally wound up was on Golden Gate. Yeah,
It's 2:17 p.m.
We had 10 acres there in the old house that we originally bought, and lived there for quite a few years. In fact, I was still living there when I went into the service at 16. So
16.
yeah, well, I was ready to join the Navy at 11 when I first, the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. I was ready to go, but I had to wait till I was 16 to get in.
Did your parents have to sign for you when you were 16?
They finally did, yeah. So I served 4 years in the Navy, and then after I got out of the Navy, I moved back to Orangevale and stayed there with the folks for a while, and eventually got married and lived around the area there. Lived over in Folsom for a couple of years, I guess.
Okay. Okay, you said you went to Roberts School. Did you attend any other schools?
Yeah, I went to Orangevale Elementary, and went 8 or 7 years there because I was a second grader, I guess, when I started there. And originally, they still had the old school there, the original old elementary school, 2-story. And they tore down and built a new one, that still exists as far as I know.
Do you remember the names of any of your teachers?
Yes. My second grade teacher's name was Mrs. Corquette. And I had one other teacher, she taught the 6th grade, 5th and 6th grade. Her name was let's see, what was it now? Mrs. Price. And then Sadie Cable was the principal in the 8th grade, 7th, 8th grade teacher there.
Did you graduate from high school?
No, I went 2 years in high school, and the war was still going, so I decided, after finding out how my stepbrother Robert was in the military over in Europe fighting, and I found out how rough it was that he had to go through, I decided to join the Navy. At least I'd have a clean bed to sleep in, you know. Yeah, I served 4 years in the Navy as a boiler tender, and because I learned how to make some fresh water out of salt water too while I was in there.
Did you have some friends that you remember their names
Navy,
in school?
oh, in school?
Yeah.
Yeah. Weir Caston, he was my old school buddy. Him and we were going to join the Navy together, and he backed out on me. And so I went ahead and joined anyway. Then, well, I can probably, there's some of the green arches, and well, let's see, the Hogabooms, Alan and Jackie and Glenn, they were our neighbors that lived across 20 acres from us there on Golden Gate Avenue. Then there was Zanettas. There's a family of them, Tony Zanetta, and there's Fernando, Rita, Teresa, and I forget the youngest girl's name. Then there was another family. I don't think they were related. Their name was Zanetta also. Lived just up the street there on, is that Plum Avenue, or I'm not sure. It turns right there by the Mormon church off of Hazel, or
Yeah, I don't know.
I should know it.
That's okay. That's all right. Okay, it sounds like you ran around with quite a group.
Oh, well, a lot of them are school chums that, well, Weir Caston and I, we run around quite a bit together. And, of course, then I spent quite a bit of time with the Wilkie boys, you know, growing up, because we were renting a little place just across from Zanetta's there for a year or two, and got acquainted with the Zanettas by living there that close to them. And so, in fact, when the Wilkies came out from Oklahoma, of course, Carrie and my mother were sisters. So anyway, we helped them out, you know, when they first got out here. They had no place to live, so we let them stay with us for a month or two till they get situated. It was quite a deal there at night. Everybody sleeping on pallets. You couldn't walk through the house, you know.
Was kind of wall-to-wall children, huh?
The wall-to-wall children, yeah. We just, yeah, we got by. We had a garden, and Pop put in a garden every year there, which helped a lot.
Did you have animals?
Yeah, we had a dog and a cat and a sheep. We found a little lamb one time. We was out picking blackberries. I don't know where the lamb come from, but we took it home and named it Becky. And of course we had a lot of fun with her, you know. They had it tied up outside the house, you know, at night, and the coyotes got her one night, killed her. The coyotes used to come right up on the hill, just above us, you know, at night, and howl and go on, yeah.
What kind of work did your father do?
Well, Pop worked for the Thomas Dredging Company for about eight years, and that was quite interesting to go out and listen to the old gold dredges run and watch them work, you know, and everything. And it was quite noisy to be around them, all that machinery running. You couldn't hear the other one talk, you know, and it was so noisy. But really interesting. In fact, I helped tear one of them down out at Mormon Island. They had the, I think, number 4 dredge out there, and they tore it down, and they were getting ready to build a Folsom Dam, so they moved it down on Sunrise and set it back up. In fact, I worked down there putting it back together. Worked for the Thomas Dredging Company for about a year. And
do you remember about what time frame that was, about what year that was?
it was 1950.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, it's right after I got out of the Navy in '49, and I went to work for the Thomas Dredging Company. Right after I got out, I worked for about 6 weeks in the ditch gang. They had to clean the ditch from Salmon Falls clear down to almost down to where Aerojet is, you know.
Oh, wow.
Where the line went clear down to there.
What do you mean by clean the ditch?
Well, that's where they got their water. They had a canal coming out of the river, and the entrance was up by Salmon Falls. And of course, it's kind of interesting. We're walking around in mud clear up to our knees, and
Oh, wow.
in a big old hip boots, and we having to clean the stuff off the banks, and there's hardly a day we didn't pull down a couple of rattlesnakes right down in the ditch with us, and it was so hot, you know, miserable.
So you worked around the dredges then?
Yeah, I worked on the ditch gang, and they picked out about 6 of us out of the crew, and put us to work on the dredge, assembling the dredge after they tore it down, moved it down there
Yeah.
at Sunrise.
Yeah.
Eventually, they tore down and moved it to Alaska.
Really?
Moved it up there and put it. Well, the state of California, I think, put a stop to the dredging
Oh,
here, and so they moved it up there so they could still use them, you know. And they had one set down in the American River just below Folsom there for a few years. They finally eventually tore it down, moved it up there also.
I saw one of those dredges in operation back when I was a little kid in the
Oh,
early
did you?
60s. It was loud.
Oh, I was fascinated by those things.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's quite interesting. The big old buckets. They I'm not sure just how many yards of dirt they'd haul. There was probably a yard and a half of dirt each bucket, and they just move back and forth. You know, on cables, the winchman would work it back and forth, and they just start digging at the banks, you know. And then when they run out of material, they just move ahead, start another run, you know. And of course, it was a dirty job. Pop would come home, he'd be covered with mud and everything else, you know. Poor guy, working around all that noise. Wonder he had any hearing at all, in fact.
You can still see the tailings up there.
Oh yeah,
From the air.
there's still quite a few of them right there coming out of Folsom. There's still a bunch of tailings right in there. I believe they have a cemetery right there also, right at the edge of that.
yeah. Yeah.
I could have bought that property back when I got out of the service. I could have gone in there and bought it $5 an acre. No, you couldn't touch it.
Not for $5.
No, no, for $5 an acre.
Okay, besides,
Let me ask, did the Wilkie boys start that Wilkie business on Greenback?
Oh, well, they took it over from one of the Wilkies. Charlie Wilkie's brother owned it to begin with. First started out over in Folsom, the old Shell station. He used to work there, and then he set up a business there in Orangevale. And yeah, he worked there until he passed away, and then his son-in-law took it over and was there for a few years. Can't think of his name. I used to run around with him some too. Maybe it'll come to me.
not Salathiel.
No.
Marion? Marion?
No, Marion didn't work there.
Oh.
In fact, Marion Wilkie, the old man, Marion, Charlie Wilkie's brother, was the one that originally set up the business.
Oh.
Yeah. So, and I remember the Eddie's store, grocery store that was right there on Greenback.
I'm sorry, which store?
Eddie's grocery store. Yeah, that's what they called it back then when I was a kid growing up. I went to school with Eddie's son.
Was that was on Greenback?
Yeah. You know where that cafe is right there, the hamburger joint there is on, what is that, is that Walnut?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
corner Walnut.
Yeah.
Okay, it was just across the street. It's
Oh.
auto parts now, I believe it was.
Okay. Yeah.
But it originally started out as a grocery store.
Yes.
And And down on Greenback, where Hazel crosses the Greenback, there used to be just on one corner, there's the old Orangevale Clubhouse. We used to go there dance a lot, you know. They had a library down in the basement at that time. And then across the street was old Pop Holmes. He had a barn in a grocery store over there. And then on the north side of the road, there on that corner, was old Willie Woo's grocery store and service station. That's where we bought our groceries most of the time. And I remember him using his calculator where they had those beads, you know, on it, and you run those beads back and forth.
Abacus.
Abacus.
Yeah. And yeah, he was quite a character.
Why was he a character?
Had a mouth full of gold teeth.
Oh,
Yeah, he told us a little secret one time about his wife was still over in China, you know. And he was handing out cigars one day. And my dad said, oh, well, where's your wife? Oh, she's in China. And anyway, he said, well, how can you be the father? And she's in China. Well, my cousin, he picks them up.
oh.
Do you remember Sicardi's feed store?
Feed store used to be right next, it's on the same side as the old Willie Woo's station used to be. I was thinking of trying to remember who had it there, the last. I knew the couple. Their son, he was a volunteer fireman, and he got caught walking pneumonia, and he was only 17, 18 when he passed away.
Oh,
Gosh, I wish I could remember. I have a problem with remembering some of the names, you know, after all these years.
yeah. Well, it's been a few days.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Okay, you talked about some of the work that you did. It's
Okay.
my understanding you worked on the dam, Folsom Dam.
Yes, I did. I worked on it from the very beginning. In fact, actually, I worked 8 months at the Folsom Prison as a guard before I went into construction, and I just didn't like that kind of work. And so I got a job as a laborer, and then they started the dam, or get ready to build the dam. And the girl I met and married, Jerry Aldridge was my father-in-law's name. He was a equipment superintendent there, or actually a mechanic superintendent, and he asked me if I'd like to join the union and become an oiler. You know, there he could get me to work, and so I did. I worked out there. That they were lowering the river bed down in that area. They eventually took the old dam out there by the prison. Excuse me. And, yeah, I was there from the very beginning.
Were you there when it was completed?
Yeah. Yeah, I worked all the way through. And
About how long did it take to build it?
it took about 4 years. It started in 1951. That's when I joined the operating engineers. I'm a 76-year member right now,
Wow.
and been with the union all those years. Yeah, it was,
At that time, was the Folsom Powerhouse still in operation?
yeah, the old powerhouse. They kept it going until they got the dam going, and then they shut it down. But that's kind of an interesting place to see. You ever been to the old powerhouse? Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. So I guess originally when it was built, they were sending power clear to Sacramento. Excuse me.
Were you there when they put in the railroad through Orangevale?
Excuse me. When they put the railroad in, well, I think I was, because I was there from time I was about 6 months old until
You're still kind of there, huh?
Right. Still kind of there,
Yeah.
not too far over there.
Yeah, right.
What were the streets like in Orangevale?
What were they like? Just, well, they just put a little oil on them, that's it. And run a scraper through there once in a while. Okay.
Yeah, I hear different stories about the streets. Some of them were gravel, some of them were just asphalt, some of them were just dirt.
Well, they had a place there on Oak Avenue for years. They had prisoners working there, digging that decomposed granite out of that mountain there. Just on, it's almost to the old Auburn Folsom Road coming through over on the right-hand side. And they'd use that on the roads a lot. Just spread it around, and it would kind of pack, you know. And then they started putting a little oil on it after a few years. Yeah, it was kind of like, I remember Douglas Boulevard over here, when it was just an old dirt road all the way through, rough and bumpy, you know, and they had sheep pastures on both sides of the road. All this area was at one time just, well, this was a hog ranch. And in fact, the old hog pen is still right down here by Old Auburn, where it comes out just down around the corner.
Yeah.
The old concrete slab is still down there. And they had hogs. This whole area was covered with oak trees, and the hogs just really thrived off the acorns, you know. And Robert and I, my brother, stepbrother, we used to hunt down here. We kept fresh meat on the table all the time, you know, pheasant and quail and cottontails, and yeah, that was back before they had any laws about hunting. Used to go down to the river and you gig salmon down there where the Nimbus Dam is, you know. Before they put the dam in, it was just a rapids down there sometimes in the fall of the year, and we'd go down there, and in fact, I almost got drowned down there one time. We'd tie the ropes onto the gig so we wouldn't lose the gig, you know, and Robert was down below me fishing, and I was kind of out toward the middle of the stream, and this big old salmon come up there, and I gigged him, and he went around me and jerked me off my feet, and he was pulling me right back down the river. And I hollered for Robert, "Hey Robert, give me a hand here." He got over there, it took the two of us to get that big old thing out of there.
Whoa.
Yeah, I thought I'd had it there for a while. I couldn't get the rope off my hand. But that's where the fish caught me instead of me catching the fish.
Yeah, really.
So,
Do you remember when you were growing up, activities that you used to do, games that you played? What did you do on weekends? And did you have favorite toys and those kinds of things?
we made our own fun back then. Played a lot of marbles. You know, that was the choice game, to play marbles and dig a hole so far apart and shoot marbles, or you'd draw a circle and put your marbles in there and you shoot and knock them out. We rolled tires, old tires off the cars, you know, get out and roll them, have races. We were always doing something. Big slingshots, out shooting at the birds.
Did you go over to Rock Corral?
Oh yeah, Rock Corral, that was one of our favorite spots. In fact, discovered there's a cave over there that I discovered it myself. You can crawl inside there, and it opens up inside, and the rock is all real shiny from the water had been running through it, you know, years ago. There's slabs of rock out there that's got all kinds of fossils in the rock. So one time there had the ocean must have been right in this area too. But yeah, there's all kinds of holes there where they ground the corn, and there's a cemetery, the burial ground they call it.
Yeah.
There, and we had discovered by Brother Eugene found this skull laying right on the surface of the ground there one time, and found out that's where the burial ground was. And I think they eventually told them about it. Sutter's Fort came up, and I think they dug it up and got some of the artifacts out of there. But we used to have a wall over there.
Okay, do you remember anything about the businesses, the hangouts, the eateries store, school, churches, anything like that that were in Orangevale?
We're in Orangevale. Well, not the only stores, like I say, was we used to buy our groceries at Willie Woo's, and got our gasoline to all of our supplies there. What other places did you ask me about?
Businesses or hangouts, eateries, stores,
Oh,
schools or churches?
we used to, there was a service station right there on Greenback. We used to gather up there after I got out of the service. We'd go in there, was a little beer place. Go in there and have a beer once in a while. I can't think of any other stores that we done most of our shopping here in Roseville,
Oh,
down on the Main Street. I remember going in there doing our shopping, 5 and 10 cent store, and I remember going in and I was quite fascinated by them. They'd had somebody up in the second floor, and you'd buy something, they'd send it up in some kind of a tube. It'd blow it up to the top, and they'd write it down and send you the receipt back down through that tube.
okay, is there anything you want to add to your story? Anything you want to talk about, or?
Well, do you want to hear just things from back then, or?
If you want to talk about that.
Yeah. Well, like I say, I got married in 1950, and we had 2 children, a boy and a girl. Lived around this area and worked in construction. I worked Sacramento Valley Crane for 25 years and another 5 years for Reliable Crane and Rigging. I worked 10 years on helping build the roads, Highway 80. Worked all around the Sacramento area, setting up buildings and doing all kinds of concrete work. Then I worked, moved to Auburn, lived there for 5 years, and I worked up on the Hellhole Dam and all that work up in there for American River Contractors. Worked the Union Valley Dam. I was over up out of Riverton, about 25 miles up in the mountains there. 3 years in there. So that's about it. Been retired since I retired at 62. I've been retired over 30 years now.
All right.
About it.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing your story.
Glad to be able to. Glad to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't any more questions,
Okay.
but thank you for being here and doing
Yeah.
this.
Well, I'm going to hang around as long as I can. we've been here 35 years now in this home here. We had it built
Yeah.
and watched Roseville grow from a little town up to what it is today. It's a great place to live. And I drive through back by the old homestead, occasionally, and they've built some beautiful homes back in there. And
Yeah.
of course, our old house, they tore it down years ago.
Yeah.
And remember back one year we had a real strong windstorm come in, and it was blowing down trees and blowing the sheet iron off the buildings, sailing around and up in the air.
Yeah.
And we had to leave the house. We was afraid the house was going to blow down.
Wow.
And I remember going out to get in the car and having to go on all fours, because
Oh, wow.
couldn't stand up in the wind. And Mom and Pop was hanging on to each other, and the bat got loose and they blew her against the fence.
Oh, my gosh.
And it had a chicken wire fence around the front there. And when got her and we started down the road, and here come our chicken house. Just picked it right up and it was coming right at us.
Oh, my gosh.
And just before it got to us, it hit the ground and just disintegrated in a
Oh,
big
wow.
pile of lumber. And just down below, the people down on the end had a grove of olive trees, and it was just like somebody was running their hand across there. The trees was just laying down, just blew them all down.
Wow.
It was strong.
Huh.
It said that the wind got up to about 80 miles an hour,
Wow.
and that was a kind
It's
of
like a hurricane, huh?
yeah, well, I don't know what they called it. It was just
Yeah.
strong winds. A lot of the big old oak trees blew them over.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Okay. All right. Well, those are all the questions I have.
okay.